All right, welcome to another interesting episode of Real Talk with Kike. I welcome you all. I say excellent afternoon to all those who are watching us across the states in Nigeria. And they said the will to make a difference in our society starts with a resolution from within each individual. And of course, the first person to identify in the chain of transformation is the woman, because she is the bedrock of the society. We have only few who are the calling of transformation with the future in focus. We will get to know more about the future in focus shortly. Again, I remain the convener, Kike. And of course, I have the real talker. Let me start from our house husband, because we're in sync with the color. How you doing, house husband Masha?
Okay. As well. Well, I'm doing well. My name is Marshall Anthony Onoya. It's a Real Talk with Kike show. I prefer to call it RTWK show. And we're reaching you live from Silverbird Studios here in Lagos, Southwest Nigeria. God bless you for staying with us.
No, that's a good afternoon from everywhere you're watching us. It's another beautiful, beautiful Tuesday. And of course, we're here to keep it real, keep it precise like we always do it. We give you the best, we bring the best, things that affect you and I, things that binds us together as Nigerians is what we're talking about. And of course, you know, the house husband is here and the chief wife is there. Me, I'm my small listen. I'm maintaining my roll call. Please stay with us. We're just started.
All right, exactly last year, the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, has slammed reports over negotiation with the Independent National Electronic Commission ahead of the Anambra State governorship election. I think it's important for us to get more stories on our this day history segment. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, has slammed reports over negotiations with the Independent National Electoral Commission ahead of the Anambra State governorship elections on November 6th. According to the IPOB, it has no business with the electoral body while wondering why it was dragged into electoral matters. This was contained in a statement issued by the IPOB spokesman, Ima Powerful. The statement reads, "We have no business with INEC. IPOB family worldwide doesn't even know whether or not INEC exists. We have nothing to do with the election INEC is conducting, and we wonder why INEC would want to drag us into the election. INEC should face what is facing it and leave IPOB alone. We didn't dialogue with the Nigerian government, let alone INEC."
Right, many thanks for staying with us. Like Damilola said, Houseman, let me come to you quickly. What's your take on this industry segment? What's a, submission on it?
Well, IPOB saying, look, INEC shouldn't drag us into election matters. I mean, they were just trying to state the obvious. Over for as long as we can remember, IPOB has been an anti-democratic organization or association, as you might want to call it, and even as we look forward ahead to the 2023 elections, they have equally started to say, look, there won't be elections in their states of dominance, and there have been several efforts to, unite minds towards ensuring that the 2023 election is successful in these areas. And one thing that I know, because we have trending and we have what the instance I want to, one thing I know is that the judgment by the courts on Nnamdi Kanu would begin to see like some settlements in these IPOB strongholds as we gradually get into the 2023 general elections.
Dami, quickly.
Well, I think for this one, the IPOB has clearly said that they are not part of this electoral brouhaha that we are facing. Well, I also want to say, if the INEC has an issue with whoever, state it out clear. Most times we mix up things, we mix up our issues and say because we want somebody to account for it, we want somebody to pick the blame, we rub the blame off on who is not deserving.
Exactly.
So it's good for us to do our homework properly before we disseminate some information, knowing well that information that have gone out, it will be difficult to change the narrative again. Thank you.
All right, many thanks for that. You guys have spoken well, but I just feel that sometimes it's good for dialogue to come in, where different parties come together on the table to actually move forward. This happened exactly 1 year. It has become a culture of our leaders, or so to speak, the leaders of some, how will I put it now, of some unit or organization or political parastatals where they actually cannot take ownership. Ownership is what I'm talking about. Sometimes, like you said, we keep pointing fingers, but the question is, it has become a culture. How do we move forward? How do we actually, try to actually sweep some certain things, other ills, in terms of how we also do things, in terms of accountability? Most times we do not want to take ownership of accountability, hence the reason why we are stuck in certain behavioral pattern with our leaders. And I keep telling people, how you do one thing is actually how you do everything. On this note, I think we'll go on a quick break to get a message from our sponsors. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, the 2022 conference theme for women in management, business, and of course, public service is having its annual event titled Firing Forward, the Future in Focus. And this is Nigeria's largest, most inspiring, and of course, impactful gathering of women in management, business, and public service. And the annual conference is a flagship event which holds November of every year, and it's attended by over 1,500 women from all over the world to discuss, a broad range of issues that centered around a cutting-edge theme that is topical and, of course, relevant to women in business, corporate world, public and development sectors. And on the live show today, we are hosting two, I would like to use powerful women, female leaders with decades of experience behind them, and of course legacies that only a few can actually cover in the areas of business, finance, management, and public service. And they are on the show today to discuss the big events in Africa, one of its kind in Nigeria. And before I welcome them on the set, I think it's really important for us to take a look at their weight of their profile. Stay with us. All right, welcome to the show, Mrs. Adegbite, and of course, Mrs. Binta Binija. Binije, right? Apologies for murdering your name. It's a pleasure to have the two great, fantastic achievers. Yes, that's the word I would like to use to describe you both today on Real Talk with Kike. I know that Mrs. Adegbite, who is an humble woman, she has been on the Real Talk with Kike platform, both on TV and on radio, and we're so excited to have you back. And of course, I know that you will be sharing a lot of inspiring words as well as we go further, but I say again, many thanks for creating time to be on the show today.
Thank you so much for having us. It's really an honor and a privilege for us to be here as well.
Fantastic. So let's just dive straight to the topic at hand, because in my head I'm wondering, firing forward, the future is in focus. Yes. And of course, I know that that's the theme, that's the year's theme for the annual conference this year. So I'm asking, last year was about celebrating legacy. So I'm wondering, what is the difference about this year and what the agenda for this year's annual conference would be, knowing that last year was legacy and you're focusing on moving forward, firing forward? Can you differentiate to our listeners, like those who are watching us right now?
Well, Kike, you were there last year, and as you can imagine, Wimbiz started about 21 years ago now, And last year was our 20th anniversary and the celebration of the legacy that the founders had laid. And one of the things we focused on last year was just to celebrate the journey thus far. But then Wimbiz now went into a transition because our founders all stepped down as founders, and they set up a transition committee to work on the transition, to hand over the reins of leadership to the next generation. And in the same light, Nigeria as a nation is in a transition because, as we all know, next year, again, so many intricacies as pertains to our political climate. And I guess even when you look at the world just generally, there's just so much going on. So for us, we're using this conference to make people begin to think futuristically and to begin to also fire up to know that that future, you know, and we have said it, that future belongs to a number of us, and you need to be fired up to run into that future.
Okay, Mom, I like the fact that you need to be fired up. As a woman, I wouldn't speak for Masha, but as a woman, how do you help us fire up in this society where a lot of cold pressure is applied? I mean, it's like they're putting us in the freezer every day, and we need to fire up. So how do we help ourselves?
Very good question. I would say it starts by knowledge, okay? And that's one of the things that Wimbiz is doing, that advocacy, opening and amplifying the voice that is small as it is right now, but that needs to be fired up. Is letting people know what they need to know. It's saying, you know, enough already. We've been in the cooler, to use your words, but it's now time to step out. It's time to say, this is who we are. We can come to the table, we can add value. All across the world in the course of this year, there have been so many remarkable achievements by women, all kinds. I mean, time will fail us to talk about them. But that's just a tiny example of what could be if women get the chance, if they get the opportunity to come to the table, to showcase their talents, to add value, whether it's in the political sector, it's in banking and finance, wherever it is that women are. We are a very valuable and important part of the nation. And we just need that opportunity to showcase what we've got, to put it on the table, to add value. We want to add value. We're not saying give us the whole table, step aside. We're saying we're here. We've got a voice. We've got something that we can add. Give us that opportunity. And once that opportunity is given, I believe there will be that firing up and then opening up a whole lot more. I like something that Malala said. She said, you know, trying to achieve or grow a nation and achieve goals in an organization without 50% of your population who are women, right? It's like a bird trying to fly on one wings. Of course, it's handicapped because there's only so high you can go if you're flying on one wing. But if the men and the women come together and we work together, we're talking partnership, we're talking unity. If we do that, then of course, firing forward will be, you know, it will be a no-brainer. Absolutely.
Nice quote from Malala Yousafzai there. But, you know, Wimbiz has gone from being women in business to women in business, entrepreneurship and all. And in the light of firing up and the future being in focus, I'm just wondering, isn't it about time that we also see the weight of Wimbiz on women in politics? Because that is equally pivotal. And like she said, you know, 2023 is just around the corner, it's just in focus. And then the older generation or the founders handing over the reins of leadership to a new generation. I just think I should be expecting to see a whole lot talk about politics when it comes to women, Wimbiz.
And you won't be disappointed, Marshall. So you're right on the money. We are talking politics. So right from the beginning of this year, or as soon as the campaign started and we were on the race, on the journey to 2023, we reached out to our, you know, associates and women in the Wimbiz community and sisterhood, I like to call it, to find out who are the people who are interested in politics. What are you doing about it? We had a course for some of the ladies who wanted to join politics or who were already in politics. We got seasoned politicians to take them through a course, if you like, to share from that wealth of experience where the bodies are buried, what to look out for, what to do, what not to do, how to ensure that you succeed. And earlier this year as well, I think it was in June, we also even had a mock presidential debate where we had people representing different parties, and they came. It was brilliant. You know, even just being in that room made me rethink. If I didn't have a PVC, I had to go get it just from being in that room. So Wimbiz has been doing that as part of our advocacy work to say, this is what you need to do. Get ready. It's not enough to say we want to change. It's not enough. And like you said, Marshall, women come to the party. Let's see you in politics. You're doing great in all of these other sectors, but what about politics? And it's important that we also have a voice there. So Wimbiz has done that, and we continue to do it. We've got a part of our advocacy, and that's called WIMPOL. And as you probably might have imagined, it means women in politics. So there's that. It's very strong, very active. It's headed up, it's a committee headed up right now by Mrs. Kemi Ogunyemi, and there's a team that works with them. So we craft out programs that are beneficial for everyone. You're going to see a lot of women come 2020.
Fantastic. Many thanks for sharing the achievements that women Wimbiz have done thus far. But you know, I want us to stay put to this political conversation, because I want every Nigerian, you know, to see why you're bringing some of your guest speakers on board. I know that, you know, they see Bukola Saraki as a political figure and a leader to emphasize, you know, thus far when it comes to Nigerian politics and a whole lot of things that he's doing. You know, I know Wimbiz also is very strategic, you know, and when it comes to women inclined campaigns, I've seen also the fact that Chiamanda is also coming on board and all of that. So let me actually channel this question to Mrs. Adegbite, because I would like you to explain to her, what does the organization hope to achieve with Senator Bukola Saraki coming on board, you know, in terms of being one of the speakers of this year's conference?
Well, just like Binta has started off with, we do have a political plenary during the conference. Now, we have sort of also looked at two parts of it. We need somebody that has gone ahead. Of course, Senator Bukola Saraki has been a governor, he has been a senator, he has been a Senate president. And so we felt it was important for him to come and share some of the key insights, the key lessons he has learned in politics, especially navigating Nigerian politics. Why? Because we need him to be able to guide women on these are some of the things we have learned on this journey. And then we also are giving people the opportunity to ask questions. What do women have to now do? You have been in the system. What do women have to do to just, you know, practical things? Now, we also have a plenary, and we put into consideration a youth candidate. We put into consideration women that have gone ahead and they have run. Some have not succeeded in elections. Some are about to step into that boat. Let them also tell us what are some of the things they're seeing on the ground. You know, let's be very practical about this thing. And then we have also men that will also be speaking. But what do we hope to achieve? It's very simple. We are looking at diversity, the new political order. We all know what is happening in that space. But this time around, it's not just all talk. One of the things we have realized is that not everybody will be a politician, but you have technocrats. Some of them will be in the room. They may not necessarily run for politics, but they will be significant in helping some politicians change the scope of whatever it is they want to achieve. And so we want to get more of our women. Of course, most of them are more women in business or in the corporate space. They have done excellently well in their own various sectors. What we want them to do is bring some of those expertise into the political space. And for those that are still on the fence thinking about it, we want you to either vote, get involved by running, or in whatever way you can support those that are on the field.
I like the get involved by running. And so far we run to somewhere. It's very, very important. But now my question is about funding. Finance is a very, very important part of anything in life. And now election. We know how draining financially can be. Is Wimbiz also making a ground for women to sponsor, to support them financially, from posters, pasting of posters, and everything that surrounds politics? Are we doing finance for some of these women too?
Well, I will say that I think by next week, we're having a forum with the private sector as well as women in politics, especially those that are now candidates. And it's being sort of hosted by the United Nations, and I think they have some funding from the Canadian Embassy. Now, one of the things that that program or that dialogue hopes to achieve is the private sector need to hear what some of the challenges and the needs of these female candidates are. And some of those private sector individuals may be able to give some support, sometimes maybe in cash, but sometimes in kind. I can be a manufacturer of T-shirts, for example. I may decide to say, okay, I want to support a candidate with free T-shirts. So those are some of the things that we are hoping we can get from that interaction. And I think it's really not about even just supporting women. It's just about the fact that, yes, we know that it's very expensive to run campaigns, but we also want them to leverage on relationships and learn how to communicate more effectively so that they can get that kind of support. Thank you very much. They must network at the conference to be able to push the needle forward for themselves.
Okay, for me, again, I'll go back to politics again with the future in focus. You know, coming from the analogy of Malala again, saying a nation trying to grow or develop without, you know, the 50% of its population made up of women. I'd want to ask, we've seen where so much talk has been, even on this platform, about equality, you know, gender equality in the workspace and, in the public space. Should we expect that, or shouldn't we expect that, you know, an association or organization like Wimbiz will be, you know, sponsoring some bills towards the promotion of gender equality?
Short answer, yes. And I'm trying to be politically correct here. And I think it's not that we've sponsored bills, but we've also, I mentioned advocacy earlier on. Part of what that work is doing, not just creating the awareness, but also addressing the issues, engaging the institutions that will make those bills. It was early this year in March, if I remember correctly, on International Women's Day, when they threw out the bills from the National Assembly, you remember? And so the women went to the National Assembly, barricaded it effectively for a couple of days. Wimbiz was a part of that vanguard, okay? And we're there not to say, we're not here to fight, we're just saying, no, you've got to relook this. This doesn't make sense. I mean, this is what we're asking. You can't just throw it out of the window. And if you remember as well, that after that engagement, after the women had talked and, you know, put our case forward, some things were
reconsidered.
Correct.
Fantastic.
So we're coming from that point of view. It's not about being militant and holding the placards and making the noise. We believe in dialogue. We believe in having the conversations. We believe in showing you the pros and the cons. This is why you'll be better off as a society engaging the women, bringing them to the table. This 50% that you're cutting off, you do yourself a disservice. The McKinsey report has shown us that where you have women in organizations, the companies do far better. They show us, and in COVID, I mean, talk about COVID, when we had the COVID pandemic, the countries that were governed by women did much better. I can give you a million examples, but the short answer is to say you need the women. They need to come to the table. So even if Wimbiz is not going to sponsor a bill, back to your question, it will be a part of advocacy. It will be a part of pointing out why it's needful to do this and that. Something we also did in talking about bills, so it's not necessarily when you go to the National Assembly and put the bills forward. Even by dialoguing and engaging with the right institutions and the right people, you can actually begin to effect that change that we need. I remember also when we had, so maybe I'm walking on thin ice here, but I think it bears talking about when there was an announcement of the boards of 7 universities and 5 people to each university, and all 35 of them were male. And so we come and we put together a nice paper and we say, you know what? We don't have a problem with everyone that you've put there, but come on, look at it again. Are you saying there's no competent woman anywhere who could sit on those university boards? And we put out a communique, we wrote to the Ministry of Education, and they listened. And on the back of that, some women were appointed. So these are the little things that Wimbiz has been doing under the radar, but even in full public.
Great submission right there. I think it's important for us to go on a quick break. Please stay with us. You do not want to miss this. All right, glad to know you're still with us. In case you just joined the show, today's conversation is about the 2022 annual conference with Wimbiz, with the theme firing forward, and the future in focus in particular. And I want to say that our guest, Mrs. Adegbite, and of course, Mrs. Binta. I'm struggling with the last name.
Max-Gbinje.
You know, I've been shedding a lot of light on the discussion at hand. Of course, they had the executive council member of Wimbiz Business and Management and Public Service. I want to say many thanks for all that you've shared thus far. You know, let me quickly use this opportunity to open our phone lines. Remember, if you're watching us across the states, you can be part of this conversation by calling the studio number 080-988-77400 showing on your screen right now. Remember, we're streaming live on YouTube and of course on Facebook, both on Real Talk with Kike platform and of course on Silverbird platform. I know that, you know, the priority of the organization include inspiring, you know, empowering, you know, advocating for women across all areas, you know, with all that you've shared thus far, you know. But I would like to ask, because when I don't know if it was Mr. Adegbite that I was talking, or yourself, where you were talking about, you know, partnering, you know, in terms of the Canadian embassy and the likes and all of that. I know that, you know, the partner with stakeholders in the government is quite important, but I would like to actually hear from you both. You know, how has the response of the government? Now, I don't want to tailor it down to Lagos State alone because, you know, women in business, you know, Wimbiz cut across all states in Nigeria and, of course, globally, because I know that I've traveled across and quite a number of people have reached out to me. Oh, we saw that Wimbiz came on your show. How can we be part of it? And so it cut across globally. But how has the government been able to partner and support this good initiative thus far?
Well, to be honest with you, Wimbiz has been successful in everything it has done because of partnerships that work. And it's both public and private sector partnerships. And I think what we do is that we identify those partners that are very relevant to us as an organization. Obviously, one of them would be the Ministry of Women Affairs and Poverty Alleviation. And so from a federal government perspective, we are very close to that ministry. We do quite a number of things together. In fact, they invite us to various events they have. Even when they have national policy dialogues, Wimbiz is a part of that. I think we even have one next week again. You can see so many things are coming up now. And we have had quite a lot of advocacy visits with a lot of public sector officials. In fact, one of them that I just want to mention that is very critical is even with the Director General of the Bureau for Public Procurement. And the United Nations Women again has also put Wimbiz on a national steering committee to look at women economic empowerment in the area of affirmative procurement. We're trying to see how we can build up female entrepreneurs and give them opportunities to be able to get public procurement, and not just get it from, you know, the public sector, but to also ensure that in the future a certain percentage of procurement goes to women-owned businesses. So there are partnerships like that that to do, and we even have partnerships with some state governments, especially when we have done programs like our Big Sister program. We have partnered with state governments, Ekiti State, Ogun State, Oyo State, Kano State, Niger State, especially through the, in most cases, the governor's wives or the Ministry of Education too, as well as, yes, even in Lagos, Sokoto. So most of the initiatives we do, we need the public sector.
Okay, that's, I would like to deviate a bit, just a bit from what the politics and firing up, but it's still interwoven in the sense that I know that they say charity begins at home, and a lot of our women, if the home front is not balanced, you cannot put out a very good narrative of yourself or even your home front out there. I would like to ask Mrs. Gbinje, Mrs. Gbinje, what do you think Wimbiz can do to also lend the voice of advocacy in the area of domestic violence that a lot of women are facing these days?
So, part of the advocacy that we carry out, I mean, the 4 pillars that you've mentioned, it's advocacy, it's inspiring, it's connecting, and empowering. We have topical roundtables. We come to conferences and we just have the conversations as well. The one thing that we do is tell people what they need to do, where they need to go, how they should get help. We've also partnered with the Lagos State government in terms of this area of domestic violence. When we get reports, we're able to pass it on to the right quarters to see that it's being dealt as appropriate. Can we do more? The answer is absolutely yes. The biggest room in the world is the room for improvement. So, you know, we continue to grow, we continue to evolve. Hansatu mentioned earlier on that we're in the middle of a transition. And so moving forward, part of what we want to do is to relook all of these things. But it starts with information. It starts with equipping people with the right tools, telling them where
creating more awareness.
Creating their awareness, and also speaking to the men. So we don't just focus on the women and say, okay, women don't do this, but we also believe, because I mean, not only are there he or she's who are concerned about doing the right thing, but it's also how we bring up our boys, because it's the boys that become men that perpetrate this domestic violence. So you start by putting out the word, letting them know what they will do. And that's why I enjoy our conferences personally so much. You know, the diversity of topics, the things we've looked at. We've had conferences where we've talked about domestic abuse, you know, sexual violence, all of that. We've had these conversations, round tables where, you know, even if it's not full-on frontal discussion, it comes up in one way or the other, and we prefer, you know, actions and next steps and how to move it going forward. So moving forward, as we transit, as we become a stronger, better organization, it might be an area of focus for us. Hansatu, do you want to chip in and add to that?
No, I think I'm fully in agreement, and we have had, I think it was last year, we had went to about 3 states, Cross River, Lagos, and Abuja. Again, in partnership with the United Nations Women, we had a private sector dialogue with those in that space to understand sexual harassment and what the private sector too can do to help reduce it. Of course, Wimbiz has not been called to solve all problems. I must be specific about that. But again, we do know that it is relevant to nation building.
If I may just add on the back of what Hansatu said, that training that she mentioned in Cross River, in Abuja and Lagos, spoke to over 2,000 women. We had over 2,000 ladies who registered for that, and we had these conversations with all of them. 2 of the key things that we looked at then was sexual violence and what to do, eradicating it in the workplace, and so yes, there's that we've been able to do.
I do know that any women or female sensitive organization or association currently in Nigeria that is looking to, you know, make a huge difference, whether in business or in any area of any sphere of life right now, would be concerned about the over 12 million out of school girls that are said to be out of school in the northeastern part, or, you know, in a larger part of Nigeria, as well as the people in the IDP camps in the northeastern part of Nigeria, whom we all know are 80% women. You know, so what would you say, or what is in the offing, what is in the kitty from Wimbiz reaching out to these category of women? 1, out of school girls. 2, women and the IDPs.
First of all, the vision of Wimbiz is to be the catalyst. And when I say catalyst, we are focused on inspiring and empowering women to attain leadership positions. What that means is that there are so many issues and problems in society that affect women and girls. But Wimbiz as an organization cannot sort of address all of them. However, it is our intention that the people that have been called, if I may say, to contribute their quota to nation building in these spaces are not only inspired, but are connected to whether the grant funding or the knowledge or the partnerships that will help them achieve this. These are some of the things we focus on. But notwithstanding, I know that, of course, obviously, during the COVID pandemic, yes, we did visit quite a lot of IDPs, or it also contributed a lot to various IDPs. In fact, we actually went to some of them ourselves, both, and it was across the nation. Apart from that, we have a Big Sister program. Our Big Sister program focuses more on helping or mentoring young girls, especially in public secondary schools. But what we have come to realize over time is that the scope of what we need to do is so wide, is so broad. And it is our hope that as we continue to inspire more women, a lot of them will arise to do this. But we are working with the Commissioner of Education, especially for Lagos State now, and looking at ways of intervention. You know, we're partnering with them, ways of intervention to, I mean, I know that this is narrowed down to Lagos, and obviously it is where we are based, but again, it's just contributing our own quota through our members. Yes.
Fantastic submission right there, Kike. You know, I would like to just stay in line with the political season right now. I know that you've shared a lot of information about the Wimbiz programs and the likes and all about in the political season and the election around the corner. We know what is happening right now with a lot of updates. I cannot help but ask this what are your political inclinations right now? And of course, I know that you shared also that you've done a lot right now in terms of women in general in the political space, where women are coming on board, you know, and you're supporting them, you're bringing in stakeholders, they'll be able to help them in terms of how to navigate around the corner of politics and all of that. But what is Wimbiz organization as a whole, you know, what have you contributed recently to a woman who is interested in politics, or would I say women who are candidates, you know, in this space of political, how would I put it now? Someone help me out, like
dispensation.
You know, what are your supports right now?
Women supporting women.
You know, women supporting women. Yeah.
Well, let me mention that the African Women Development Fund, we had reached out to them last year. They gave us grant funding, and it was from that grant funding that we focused on launching the Women in Politics Mentoring Program.
Okay.
And so what we were able to do was, as at that time, they weren't all candidates, but a number of them were aspirants. And we had I think it's about a 6-month mentoring program for them, just like Binta had stated earlier. And through that mentoring program, there was actually a lot of intervention. We even had a community development project, and I will say that we did not only take them through a process, we also put them in groups, just like she said. They did a presidential debate, they had their own mock parties, political parties, party chairman, party esco. Do you understand? We gave them the real thing. We invited a real party chairman. It was, I mean, it was fantastic. We actually invited a real political party chairman to have a session with them. So they understood the rudiments of politics. Now, even though some of them, of course, after the primaries, some of them had fallen off the race, but the important thing is that there was a lot of learning. There was a lot of networking. And a lot of them have been able to connect, and they're encouraging themselves, and some are still in the race in terms of candidacy. And I've told you that we have an interaction next week with the United Nations Women, and the focus is also seeing how they can get support, especially from the private sector, and then to also understand what they're going through. Now, it is the beginning. We also help to celebrate and encourage some of our own members that are actually going into politics.
Like the likes of Mrs. Adiola. Can I choose that name? Am I allowed?
Yes, yeah. One of the founders, yes. I think she's running for House of Representatives in Ogun State under the SDP. But the important thing is that Wimbiz is non-partisan. I must be very clear about that. But because leadership includes politics, we are just trying to encourage women to be more
all right,
involved.
fantastic submission from both of you thus far. But quickly, let me give you an open platform right now. In 1 minute each, what do you expect from people who will be attending this year's Wimbiz? Over to you first.
Okay. Well, I will just speak to the fact that the conference is packed with a lot of inspirational and interactive sessions. I will mention some. I'll leave BMG to mention the rest. I know that our debate annually is one of the highlights of the conference, and this year we're talking about the Great Resignation, to quit or not to quit. I mean, you don't want to miss that. We do have deep dives, very interesting deep dives, and I won't give the expo, but come and deep dive with us.
And deep dive with them.
I think one of the plenaries that is very exciting to me is Creative Spaces Naija to the world. We know what Naija is doing all over,
yes,
you know. I mean, we have to celebrate our Commonwealth ladies. Some of them will be there physically. We want to touch a bit of women in sports, you know. We need to do that celebration. We also have our female achievers. So every year, Wimbiz sort of celebrates women in the over 70 that have been impactful in any area. This year, we're looking at professors that have contributed in academia.
Fantastic.
And so this conference is designed to just make you think futuristically and what you can control.
So, ma, with all those who are jackpine, how do you use the street word right now? Pardon me to use the street word. What's your thing? What do you expect people to look out for this year's annual conference?
The jackpot phenomenon is a very real thing, honestly. But having said that, when they do come to the conference, there will be the great resignation to quit or not to quit might provide some answers directly to this question. But more than that, Hansatu has spoken about everything, and we don't want to put it all out there. If we tell you everything, what will they hear when they come? So we'll save some and leave some in the bag. But the one thing that I'm excited about, the debate as well, is also the sheer diversity that we've got. We've curated a fantastic, plethora of speakers, the panelists, the moderators. Everyone is coming with something different. They're coming with their A game on people across all divides, across all geographies. So it promises to be excellent. There's something there for everyone. And I want to say to every lady, and even the he for she's who are in touch with their feminine side, who can join us at the conference, to make sure they're there. Marshall, I'll be looking forward to seeing you. You won't regret it. It will be a great experience for everyone who shows up.
All right, fantastic. Many thanks again for creating time to be on the platform. It's been an interesting time with you both. I wish the organization the very best, and of course, with the women like you behind this organization, how would they be firing us? All right, quickly, we'll be going into the last segment of the show, which is the trending stories that bind us, that interest us, and the first trending story that caught our attention is that of what's it called now? The plan for Nnamdi Kanu that is still under review, so to speak, after when the court have already made a pronouncement. Quickly, Marshall, let me come to you. What's your take on this submission?
Well, that's I would say it is a huge. Nnamdi Kanu's lawyer has come out to appeal to the government to say, look, whatever plan you've got for Nnamdi Kanu, let us first of all respect the ruling of the court. Leave out nomenclature. For once, this is a time that is so sensitive that nomenclature as to discharged or not acquitted, discharged and not acquitted, or acquitted but not discharged, this is not the time to begin to evaluate such nomenclature. Even someone who has been a mistrial, and there is an appeal for a retrial, goes home first, and then you hear from another court, or another panel is instituted to take the person back to court. So for now, I think the federal government should just take heed. President Muhammadu Buhari had said initially, in several occasions, that he would interfere in the trial of Nnamdi Kanu, and he has come highly commended in the wake of that his speech. So I see no reason why this time around we'll begin to hear things like our plan for Nnamdi Kanu is still in the offing. I mean, he has been discharged. Let him go home. Let him be released before we begin to see the worst of the unknown gunmen and all their sorts.
All right, many thanks, Masha. I think before I come to our guest, in my head, I'm just thinking the Court of Appeal in Abuja, struck how the terrorism charges, filed against Nnamdi Kanu by the government, and all that, is released from the custody of the SSS. When I say SSS, I mean State Security Service, in terms of the judgment that was held, or oaths that was extraordinary, in terms of rendition, if that's the word to use right now. And I'm wondering, in Nigeria, the action of all our leaders, in terms of the flagrant violation of the country's extradition settlement of this human rights fundamental breach is exactly what I'm trying to ponder on. That why is it that our government, especially this governor, this administration, it seems as if they tilt towards the court of law that suits them. However, I just feel that for the benefit of our viewers right now, I just feel that the AQ toll or AQ tau, means legally freeing the accused, because I feel that that's some of the challenges that we are facing. So people are wondering, what do they mean by so? The layman on the street do not understand how the legal words are being used, and I feel that that's some of the challenges we are facing right now in terms of what is going to happen in evidence that was submitted in this regard. And I'm wondering, discharge means a legal order of release given by the magistrate on what grounds now? On he or she being released, or has it come to a place where I feel that some of the things that are being said in court should not be founded or should be forced, you know? And I feel that those are some of the challenges we are facing right now. The appeal court has ordered for the release of Nnamdi Kanu, and that should be respected. And I feel that, again, let me emphasize on this: the government needs to respect the rule of law. They really need to respect it, because I feel that the problem of our leaders today, they expect the citizens to obey the rule of law. However, they are not respecting the rule of law. So the leadership has to show from their own end in terms of accountability when it comes to them respecting the rule of law, when it comes to them not actually, you know, using existing structures. Because I just feel that, you know, the people that are at the corridor of power right now, they are the one causing a lot of damages when it comes to law and acting above the law. And I'm wondering, how else can we actually end all the shenanigans, for lack of a better word, right now that is happening in our country? Organization would even trample on the right of the people, and that is the reason why I started the show. I think I said one thing earlier, that I would do one thing is I would do everything. There's one person who is leading from that corridor of power, which at the end of the day returns home, and you see that everything trickles down to how they do everything. So in my head, I'm wondering, same thing trickles down to your own front, and everybody acts like lawless people. Again, I'm minimizing my words here, but I just feel that we all need to be conscious of our action. We need to take it seriously, that it is time for us to actually respect the rule of law. You know, before I keep going on and on, my technical director say, yeah, madam, calm down, I know you're ashamed. But let me come to you quickly. What's your take on this thus far, Mrs. Binta?
Now that you've asked the pointed question, I was wondering how I was going to plead the fifth, you know, and avoid talking about this. Because I'm a passionate Nigerian. I love Nigeria. I understand the Japa phenomenon and why people are leaving. But I'm one person who has said, you see this Nigeria, we will live here and we won't die, we will survive. Nigeria will survive, Nigeria will thrive. I'm a firm believer that in our lifetime, we will see the Nigeria of our dreams. But yes, there is a lot of work that needs to be done. And I believe that it starts with the rule of law, you know. So without, if I were to go on, I'll be even more passionate than you. I'll probably start crying here now and saying, God, you know, guys, do something. Let's save Nigeria. It's the only country we've got. So I wouldn't delve into, maybe I'll hand over to Hansatu and let her do that. Before you hit it right there. It must be respected.
Yeah, before you, many thanks for your submission. Before you hand over to her, quickly, I think I'll be coming to her in terms of the second trending story, which is the Nigerians with highest dependence in UK migration statistics, because we saw all that in the public. Say quickly, ma, what's your take on this? You know, which is part of the debate that we're talking about. What's your take?
Kike, I'm still going to tie it to my Wimbiz annual conference. It's very simple. We have a plenary on the new face of leadership. Nigerians have an opportunity now. We have a plenary that is talking about leading across borders, and we're bringing in all these our ambassadors. Now, why am I mentioning that? You see, if this nation gives us that enabling environment, keeps our students in school with relevant education, people will not be running with members of their family in the name of education. And so that is why I feel that it is very critical for us to get it right in 2023. Yes. I will mention that as one. I do understand what the UK is saying. You can't have, of course, an educational visa and then even catering for more people than the students that you have brought in, and what it is doing to their economy. So I think, for me, I would still go back to the fact that we need to get it right in this country. Fantastic. So that people choose to stay.
Awesome. Damilola, quickly in 1 minute.
Well, I think on the Japa syndrome, it's like before you look at your next door neighbor, the house is empty. Have they gone? Somebody I saw last night. People don't even want to tell anybody that they're leaving now. And like you said, Ma, I would also borrow your word to say, if there was an enabling environment, like I always say, some people should go. Some of us will stay and will make it good. When you go to acquire some knowledge, acquire some skill, come back, don't be a nuisance. Come back and let us now fix it together to the Nigeria of our dreams. But you want to go and study. Most of them just japa under the guise of study visa. Because here there's no education security. We can keep lamenting on and on. But like Mrs. Gbinje said, some of us will remain here and fix it and make it work.
All right, fantastic, fantastic. I think quickly, let me just add to what both of you have said, because in my head, for the UK to bring up this status, I think that it means that they've gone back to their drawing board. They are weighing on the pros and cons of their policies and immigration laws, you know, and they are considering the benefits, you know, amidst this pressure that is being put on all of us economically. We are here, we are owing the whole country is in debt. So I'm wondering, as at time of release of this statistic, there is a lot of energy cutouts in UK that I've heard of. You know, there is a lot of public debt as well of over 60 million, you know, in pounds. You know, so indirectly they are beginning to tell us that best stay back in your country, you know, don't come to UK anymore. But I just feel that some people want to argue that Nigerians are family oriented. That's a blatant lie, if you ask me. Yes, and not because in this scenario at all. I just feel that Nigerians are using this opportunity to jackpot, you know, again, permit me to use this street word. However, I want us to also realize that, you know, there are crises everywhere. Nigerians need to understand that it's a global thing. We saw what happened in Paris, you know, where the citizens actually had to stage a protest on the government in terms of inflation and rise in prices and you know, fuel and the likes and all of that. So the whole of Europe is also feeling this energy supply that have dropped, and also we've seen how Russian-Ukraine as well crisis have also affected us globally. So even UK is even having infrastructure shortage and, you know, rising into all sorts and all of that. So I'm asking in pain, you know, when you are saying that, what is the difference in Nigeria and all those countries that they are running away from? I'm asking, is there value to our earnings? Because I feel that that's also some of the challenges we are facing today in terms of value for our work, and of course how a lot of people there cannot afford quite a number of things. Secondly, the fact that the basic amenities like good roads, you know, security, free education. Mrs. Adegbite emphasized on free education, that if there was free education, there are quite a number of challenges that would have helped us in curbing all these things. Again, I would like to end with this. There is a plan for their future abroad. Is there a plan for us in Nigeria? All right, on this note, I think this is where I draw the curtains of the show. So we'll come your way next week. Remain kind to one another, and bye now.